Oh, did he freeze now?
I hope not.
Oh,
No, no,
hello?
no, no.
No,
I'm
he's
sorry.
probably typing.
Okay. So funny. I had like one instance with my computer and now I'm like, are you guys still there?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I joined this and every screen I have, which is a lot, they all went black, right? And then I'm like,
Oh,
then I waited and I'm like, I could just shut down my computer and start over, but then I'm like, no, just wait it out. And I waited out and they all came back. Patience
yay. Patience.
instead, because like the initial thing I always think of when electronics don't
Panic.
work is to just like pull the plug, wait 10 seconds, put the plug back in.
The universal reset.
Right. Sometimes we got to do that ourselves. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
Hey.
absolutely. Hey,
Getting
let's
deep with it
continue.
real early here, real early in the podcast. But
Yeah, let's maybe think about continuing with that. Welcome, 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 everybody. We are so glad to have you with us here on episode 38 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. And as we get started, thank you for hitting the like button and sharing this podcast with your friends and family. I am Craig A. Jackman, along with Matt Hollis and, of course, Robert Hollis. And we thank you so much for joining us today on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast. Gentlemen, let's get started. Welcome.
Hey, Craig. Hey, Matt.
hello, hello. How's everybody
If
doing today? How you guys doing?
I was
Got
doing
exciting
any
stuff to talk
better, if I
about?
was doing any better, I'd be frozen in big time.
And what a
That's funny.
picture that was
Yeah.
that you said. I mean, you were sharing with us that your driveway was clear last night, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then this morning, as Terry had, well, I'm not going to say how eloquently she put it, but iced over now.
My wife does not like winter. She doesn't. And so I got up this morning and like 20-mile-an-hour winds, and it was snowing and I couldn't even see across the street. And
Here,
so,
I got you. I got the video right here.
oh
Oh,
yeah.
there it is. Let's see.
Without my mom's talking though.
Let me spotlight that for everybody to take a look at. Yeah, so that's where they are. That's where they
Yeah.
live up there in Montana, and that driveway, if I remember correctly, minus Terry's comments, was clear as of
Yep.
last night. That's what
Yep.
we're
Damn, that's a
talking
lot of
about.
ice too.
Solid ice. Solid
Yeah,
ice.
it's crazy.
Wow.
That
But
is Montana to a T though. It's like you could have a beautiful sunny day yesterday and then this morning wake up to this. So
yep.
See, I remember that when we used to live back in Indiana, and to me and Robert, we were kind of talking about this briefly prior to the podcast. Typically, when it goes from that extreme kind of weather condition in a short period of time, watch out for the tornadoes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
I
places,
remember
yeah.
those.
Hey, there's
Unfortunately,
places all over the place. I don't even remember, when we start talking about stuff today. Um, was the last podcast on Friday? Did the wildfires in California already happen?
yeah,
yeah,
we're past that.
Okay.
yeah.
We're
There's
on to
still the
brand new stuff. What's going on now? The inauguration?
yeah. That's the next. Yeah, what was it? We started in New Jersey. I mean, if we're going to go in the last few
Aliens?
incidences, New
Aliens. Yeah.
Jersey, aliens and drones. Then, not to diminish it, because obviously Matt and I live kind of in the area here. We had the winds and the fires and everything around LA, and now that that's going through the cleanup phases, what's the next shiny object that everybody's looking at? January 20th, Monday,
Yeah.
inauguration.
Yeah. It's
Crazy how fast that came up too, because it just seems like I've been doing so many other things that I completely forgot.
when
You
when
know?
you're I love that statement. I don't know who said it, but I do believe and love this statement. It's crazy how fast time flies when you're having fun. Because when you're focused on something and your imagination is locked in, time disappears so fast. And I guess the opposite is true. When you're not having fun, um, you know, time drags pretty damn slow.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I don't, if you guys don't mind, I got a little rant that I
No,
want
please.
to.
We
I
are
got
on
a,
your podcast, so
I,
go ahead.
I got a letter from Connecticut today.
Connecta?
Oh, did you?
What
Our
is
bank,
Connecta?
right?
Okay.
Connect.
Credit. It's a bank credit union, right?
Yep. And so they basically notified me that we've been banking with them for years. But
Like two or three.
they basically just found out that all my direct deposits, which are millions and millions of dollars, no exaggeration, millions and millions of dollars. This letter is to inform you that you about the recent review of your account. During our review, it was identified that you are receiving ACH credits and debits from My Daily Choice, which was confirmed to be a marijuana-related business selling products derivative from cannabidiol. Craig, say it for me.
Cannabinoid.
Thank you. CBD, right?
Yeah, CBD.
So, and it's like, hey, we're not letting you deposit your millions here anymore.
Right.
What? After how long? And after everything that we've gone through over the last few years with with cannabis.
Yeah, if there's any state that you could be in right now, other than Colorado, to be okay with cannabis, that would be California. And it's like, no. So, yeah.
So I'm gonna have what you're saying is I'm gonna have to go sign some shit at a new bank, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I'll figure
They're
it out.
lost, though.
I was gonna
gosh.
I was gonna say, like, what about Chase? JP Morgan Chase.
What about the company that we left?
Wells Fargo?
No, Yellowstone Bank.
Oh, that's funny.
They got a whopping 5 branches. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think
established in 1812 or something.
They were right next to Wells Fargo. Maybe not as successful, but they didn't have as many carriers. Yeah. But
here's something that you guys know I love this statement because it's what really, really defines my life. Is if what you know isn't so, when would you like to know? You guys know I love that because I just question everything. And so I heard, people hear everything, right? And now because of Matt, I'm educating myself where now my mind is the opposite of what it used to be. Now when I see something, I believe that it's bullshit until I prove it's not. You know what I mean? Because of AI and all this stuff.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Yeah. So someone said that if you really want to establish great banking, do it with a local bank. The people that are there are local. They're usually from a number of generations. And that's true. That's 1,000% true. So no matter how much money I make, I would walk into Wells Fargo. I get to throw them under the bus. And I walk in there and they would go, hey, we'd love to do all your business banking for you. And they did the same thing. We talked about this a little bit. Maybe Matt and I just talked about this about free speech, but we probably brought it up on a podcast. Because free speech is you not in your mind believing that I'm a piece of shit for what I do. That's not part of free speech, right? And so every time I tried to build our business banking with Wells Fargo, they would go, well, you're self-employed. I'm like, yeah. And you get your money from that pyramid kind of shit. Fuck you. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll just end it. I said I was going to go on a rant, and then I am. You know what I mean?
No, please.
But I wouldn't tell any children not to play soccer or play basketball or play football. Or be a gymnast. I wouldn't tell any young boy and girl not to do something because I could pull up a fucking fact. Do you know how many millions of dollars are spent by people and their parents and their grandparents when only less than 1% of the people will actually make a full-time living at it? Because that's the truth. You can go to AI and Google right now and put out of all the kids that play any sport, what percentage make $1 million plus a year in athletics? It's less than 1%. So why wouldn't you tell every person, I'm going to be creative, I'm going to be an actor? Don't you know that less than 1% of the people actually make money being an actor? Stop being an idiot and fucking stop that shit. Don't be a painter. Don't be a sculptor. Don't write music. No, everyone gets excited because of that 1%. That's why we do and imagine what we do. So Wells Fargo started pulling the shit on me. Every time they would look at my financial stuff, they're like, well, are you an independent contractor? And where's this $1 million coming from? And we did a little due diligence and we found out that that's one of those network direct sales company. And I'm like, fuck you, I'm out of here. So I heard that you build something with a local bank running millions through Yellowstone Bank. I get to know the people personally. Matt has met the fucking CEO and president of Yellowstone,
Right. Yeah, of
right?
course.
And so we go down there, establish our banking. Then I decide that I'm going to get a home loan or a business loan. And they tell me right to my face, oh, we farm the loans out. We don't do loans anymore as a private bank. So if you wanted to do a mortgage, we would sell your loan through somebody else. We don't do that in-house anymore. Uh, that should have been Robert Hollis practicing what he preaches. Go to a local bank and sit down with one of the presidents, asking them, hey, listen, by the way, company's doing 2 million, 3 million a year. We don't want to use our money to expand the company. Matt's now getting into AI. I want to back him. We want to get a business loan and really make that happening. We don't sit in a boardroom and give money away to people like that. What? Oh, well, we would farm your stuff out. Funny word, Yellowstone. We would farm your loan out, to other people. You know what I mean? And when I found that out, that's when we ended up with Connecticut. You know what I mean? So then when we moved out to Montana, now you got the local Yellowstone Bank, and I love them because they know us by name, they know Terry by name, but now they're what is it called? Their stuff for security is so tight. It's like you use your Yellowstone Bank card in Utah and they won't allow it through. It's like, listen, you're not in Laurel, you're not in the local area that you're in. We don't have any. Oh well,
Yeah, the thing,
I need you to
yeah.
prove that. I need you to
I was
prove
gonna say
that. Okay.
Yellowstone Bank would like stop me from doing like $99 transactions for shit online that we needed for our business, and then we would have to call them going, "Hey,
All the
listen."
time, huh?
Yeah, I would tell Matt, our business card, hey, just buy that. Yellowstone's like, nah, that ain't happening. So when we moved out,
Yeah,
we're,
everybody, I'm sure everybody loves that feeling, when you put all your money in a bank and then the bank says, "No, you can't use it."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
That's
it's your money, of
always a
course.
fun feeling.
always a fun feeling. And so now we're where we are now. So I heard that we'll do business with a local credit union.
Mm.
And I would say 99% of what Connecticut Credit Union has done for the Hollis family has been pretty freaking awesome. We got to go in and meet the people there. They seem like they're more down to earth. We got a 2.6% refi on her home. It's like, they've given me
Never
like,
mind, they're benefiting from you on
yeah,
all of
yeah.
the things that you've done.
So just saying the rant to you guys, I'll probably just figure out where to direct deposit the money from MDC and then just take that one and put it back into Connecticut. Because I just, it's like Matt and I would have to go through all the bank statements to figure out all the ACHs that are coming out of the corporate account, paying for everything.
No, it's
Um,
always one of those headaches anytime we've done a I mean, merchant accounts are worse, I would say, because at least, and it sounds weird, right? Because you assume with your mind, you're like, oh, well, having your own financial bank account for the corporation. No, like we've made accidents, like we were going to send 50,000 and then instead of sending 50,000, it just pulled 50,000 out of the account that it was supposed to send it to, and then Yellowstone Bank had to help us with that, and they were great.
Yeah.
with that, right? And same with Wells Fargo as well.
Yeah.
But
You're still with Wells Fargo, right, Matt?
for now, yeah. I the thing is I have never had any issues with Wells Fargo, and I've had my identity stolen.
Yeah.
So there were moments and times where I really needed Wells Fargo to help me out, and I didn't even have to do anything. They like just did it all and then called me back and
Oh, very
That
went,
makes a
cool.
big
"Hey,
difference.
yeah." So that's great. I haven't been scarred by them yet, but I know you and Mom
Hey, did you
have.
did you
So
did you ever get your did you ever get your money from the IRS because of that fraud on your account?
no, no. It's so funny too because I had a tax return probably that when I was, geez, it's got to be like 9, 8 years ago. Um, and I just assume at this point that like in one of the ones where I owed, it was Peter deducted it because I had brought it up to him in the past, right? Like maybe
Right.
he had a talk with them. I just don't think about this shit, but some of this might drive you guys mad, right? So I had a tax return. It was like small, like $600, and maybe that's not a small amount to everybody, but in this situation, I was like, let's go down to the IRS building. I'll talk to him. So I went down to the actual IRS building. And as we got there and stuff, it was such a painful process. And by the time we got done with the whole entire ordeal, talking to this person at the IRS for like 2 hours, right? They basically came back with, "There's nothing really we can do at this current moment. Wait till all the identity theft stuff is done, right? And then re-bring it up." It's so stupid, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's the US government. They should already know this shit the moment I tell them, or when you send a freeze out to all the banks,
Yeah.
you assume that that'll also go to the government and go, "Hey, listen, my
Wow.
identity is stolen," right?
Yeah.
And so that the reason they couldn't give me the 60 whatever tax return is because someone had already filed my taxes in my name, and got a higher return. So they needed, right? They fake filed my taxes with a higher
So they
return so
needed
then they could
verification
the
from
fraud.
you, and they had to go through the entire
Yeah.
process.
But long story short, I never got that money, right? So, but I have paid them multiple times since
Oh,
then,
Oh,
geez.
my
in the tens
girlfriend's
of
going through the
thousands,
same
hundred,
thing
yeah.
with IRS. They want their money right now, now, now,
Yeah.
now, now, now. But
Yeah.
then when they have to give it back to you, it's like, we're still going through the process, and we're still
They're
making sure
printing
that
it.
the
They
I's are
need a
dotted
minute.
and the T's are
Right.
crossed.
I
Yeah.
seen a post, I don't remember who it was from, and it said it showed the amount that the world, that Earth owes in debt versus the GP, the gross national profit, right? GDP, is that the
GDP,
okay?
gross domestic product.
Yeah, so it showed how much all the countries combined bring in and how much the world is in debt. And then someone made the post underneath there. So this is what the Earth owes Earth.
How do they determine what the Earth is owed?
What?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, but I thought it was pretty funny, and years ago, this had to be years ago. I remember, God, you probably remember him, Miller, the comedian,
Yeah.
Dennis
uh,
Miller.
Mhm.
Dennis Miller, yeah. And at one of those things that he's at, where you go and made jokes and stuff.
Are you talking
At
about
the
like a Live Aid or something like
No,
that, where
no, for the president, they always do this dinner every year.
the
The
journalist dinner? Yes,
correspondence dinner.
Yeah.
And
correspondence dinner.
you're
Yeah.
the guy that you're talking about is like George Miller, not George Miller, that's a director. Something like that. Dennis Miller.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening is he was at that. And part of him being in front of people, he just acted, this is probably dating everybody on here. He pulls out a thing called a checkbook. We used to use these things. And he pulled out the checkbook and he
It's
says,
like an IOU.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so the checkbook, he pulls out a checkbook and he said, so if I were going to write a check right now for the national debt, can anybody in this room tell me who I need to make the check out to?
I could
I've
tell
seen that
you.
video.
What?
I could tell you
Who?
that like people don't realize this, but you could Google this really quickly. Did you know like almost 80% of the United States debt is owed to the has been borrowed and loaned from the American people? So the people that are actually owed the money is you. But people don't want to hear that because that's
Yeah,
like
because
fucking
it's not the
it
IRS.
hurts. It
It's not
hurts
the
to
IRS.
know.
It's
Like
not
as of
the
December, I Googled
U.S.
it real quick.
government.
Yeah, as of December 2023, the US government has borrowed nearly 27 trillion from the public, which is about 79% of the total debt. So every time they go print more money, they're making your money
Less
worthless.
valuable.
Worthless.
worthless. Yeah.
Not worthless,
Now
not
we're
yet,
not. Now
but
we're sounding
worthless.
like we're slipping into
Right.
the QAnon. So it's like,
This isn't QAnon. This is
no,
facts. Like this,
it is fact. It is fact.
they say
Um,
they want you to believe that this part is QAnon because that would be in their
yeah.
best interest. But no,
Well,
they loan the
to
money from
bring
you.
up to
So
keep this subject going, because I think it's pretty cool, So the whole thing that's going out all over where is Biden not only doing his farewell speech, but basically saying, look out for the oligarchs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the inauguration, I brought this up to someone the other day, and I even tried to search it, and I can't find it, right? But it's like, when has any president had the three or the four top people that are worth $1 trillion at his inauguration? So I guess Bernie Sanders yesterday was going after this guy that's going to take up the treasury, right? And he's also a billionaire. The guy that Trump putting in for treasury,
right.
he's a billionaire. So of course, Bernie Sanders was going, hey, all these guys, what about all these guys? You know what I mean? Do you really believe that all these guys, or should be worth this amount of money? And I love what he said. He said, don't you understand what you're saying is all these people are people that came here are virtually started with nothing and built their wealth? So as a part of your goals to make sure that someone doesn't go for the American dream because they need to be their stuff taken away? And Bernie Sanders is like, that's not what I'm saying. I just don't think that these people should have this kind of power. And he's going, you mean people like me? I started with nothing and now I'm a billionaire. People like me. And he goes, no, I just don't think it's right for them to be a part of an administration. And he goes, oh, you mean like Biden when he gave the President Freedom Award to George Soros? And Obama gave one to Bill Gates? You mean like that? What's going on? It's like, in my mind, I want the smartest fucking people around me. And if they're worth money and they're smart, it's like, hey, do they have influence? Can they change things? Yeah. Could they change them for bad? Yeah. Could they change them for good? And so one of the things I always remember with some presidents that have served our country, not to make money, is when you find out that they were entrepreneurs. So bringing successful business knowledge into the presidency and an administration when the country is going negative should be a good thing. But, the guy that's walking into office on Tuesday already had a shot. So I don't know. So again, I want to be optimistic, but in that same vein, and I want you to go on a rant, here's where Robert Hollis always sets in the world. Yesterday, I posted on all social media, I love watching the launch, the SpaceX rocket launch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm watching it. He lands it again, on the chopsticks. He pulls it off. I sent it to Craig, sent it to everyone. And then in the midst of that, I like watching the whole thing. And so if people watch the whole thing, they tell you all the tests that they're going to test. And they also tell you all the failures. So they said, never in the history of doing a Starship launch will we be putting the Starship under this much pressure. We're going to bring it in faster and hotter than we ever did. We just made new tiles to go on the front of it. We want to make the tiles replaceable like the rocket. But right now, because of the heat that they produce, we have to replace these tiles all the time. I just would, go into flames. So we came up with a new technology. It's getting its first test today. And we're going to bring the rocket in faster and hotter than it ever has. So lands on chopsticks, and then they go to the other feed. There is no other feed.
Yep.
And I have seen one small picture that shows the flap, and it was like this on number 6 as well. But right where the flaps connect, that it just got just super, super red hot. And the other one, of course, landed. Well, they bring this one in faster and quicker. And the last photo that it had of that weak spot on the Starship, there, you got to see flames before it went blank. And I'm going like, they're like, we want to know how fast we can bring this Starship back down. We want to know where the breaking point is. And I'm going like, so what does the news say? Starship, oh, they landed on the chopsticks again. Oh, and the Starship exploded. You know what I mean? And it's like they were trying to make it explode. But if you don't hear all the context, and then I all of a sudden seen someplace where Jeff Bezos was congratulations to Elon Musk, but then underneath there was a post where Elon Musk was giving congratulations to Jeff Bezos. Do you guys realize yesterday 2 rockets went up in the same fucking day by 2 separate people? I mean, so they're talking about they're talking about in the future, where again we talk about the imagination.
I got the
vision.
times for what you're going to talk about because I knew you were going to talk about it. So this is
Yeah.
So basically, like one of the end goals of this Starship launch isn't just to get to space and to Mars and to things like that. One of the main goals of Starship is to revolutionize, because of its size, revolutionize travel in the world the way that we now currently do. So the goal for SpaceX on Earth with these starships is to have them go up, wait outside the atmosphere a little bit because the Earth turns at such a speed that all they have to do is break the atmosphere, sit up there for a little bit, and then come back down and be able to land. And we're talking about, so from Los Angeles to New York, this is the new version of the way that you'll travel in the next 5 years, right? Maybe a little longer because of regulations, but now that Trump's president, maybe not, right? But we'll see. But Los Angeles to New York is a 5 hour and 25-minute one-way flight. It will be 25 minutes on these rockets. Bangkok to Dubai, 27 minutes. Tokyo to Singapore, 28 minutes. London to New York, which is normally an 8-hour flight, 29 minutes. New York to Paris, which is normally an 8-hour flight, 30 minutes. London to Hong Kong, which is normally an 11-hour, 50-minute flight, breaking the atmosphere, waiting for the Earth to rotate, and coming back down 34 minutes. So imagine the world and the economy moving forward when you could get on a rocket and in 30 minutes be in Hong Kong from New York City or wherever. Now you're going, okay, I remember when the internet took the whole world and brought it together. Like the economies of the world now are together. We were trading goods and stuff before, but we really are now in a world economy. I think that this is another one of those next steps where, okay, what happens to culture? And these are a lot of questions people don't ask. They don't think about this stuff. What happens to culture? What happens to all these things and I always think generationally, so not us, but like the next generation that grows up with this being commonplace, right? What do they do to the differences in cultures in all the places I just told you when they can get to them in 20 minutes? You know what I mean? Like what changes when someone could live in Los Angeles and work in Tokyo,
anywhere,
and then come home at the end of the night in Los Angeles.
As if they were commuting on the freeway,
better,
from one point to another. Well,
better,
yeah, exactly.
Probably safer, faster. You know what I mean? Like it's insane.
And one of the things, Matt, that same thing is, do you know how much the world changed when someone figured out that you could actually take a package and fly it somewhere? Because up to that point, it was on a ship. Mm-hmm. So when all of a sudden a couple of companies go, let's dedicate all of our biggest airplanes just to shipping things 24 hours a day. All right. So is it possible to send something that the world needs or manufacturer needs a special part, could we get it there in one day, 24 hours? And Federal Express and DHL and UPS made that fucking happen. And
Right.
so now we're talking about, companies like SpaceX where they can fill that whole entire rocket and have it there in 30 minutes. It's going to take more time to get the product to the launch pad and get the product off the rocket to wherever it's going. That time will be longer than the actual travel itself.
Yeah, and eventually it will all be automated. Like
Totally.
machines will do all of those things. It's so
Totally.
insane to me to live in a time that every single, like I remember when I was in my teens, someone had made all these different graphics, right? And each one of the graphics were a technological advancement that they saw um humanity getting to immortality. It was different, it was like six different routes at which they believed scientists believed that humanity would reach immortality and reach the stars.
Right.
And what's so crazy about this, you guys, is I think four out of the six of those are happening right now. Like they're in the process of happening. Artificial intelligence, robotics, um, medical stuff is drastically going to increase with AI. And then travel. Like a lot of these things that make our lives so much easier are drastically and exponentially growing at such a rate that it just blows my mind to think about, like, wasn't it like 60 or 70 years between the Wright brothers and the moon landing? Like it was insane that that
Right.
level of growth of technology happened, right? Yeah, and you
Oh
can
yeah.
see the different scale of things there. But
Yeah,
it's
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know. Keep going, Matt. I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt you. Do
go
you
ahead.
did you guys know that every booster of every starship has been bigger than the last? I didn't know that. So every time that they do one of these, this is number seven, every time that booster's bigger. They purposely just say, how much mass can we ship into the air? And
Yeah.
I'm like going, and to think again, the
Or maybe how little
imagination.
mass
Yeah, well,
because it's shrinking because it's better performing.
the Elon Musk was saying that, and even Jeff Bezos, the interview that I seen with him, is he goes, we'll figure this out and we'll figure this out in the next 10 years. And he goes, but the amount of weight and cargo that we'll be sending to the moon into Mars will scatter people's minds. And they go, well, why? And two differences. Elon Musk wants to build a space station on the moon so we can make it to everywhere else. But Jeff Bezos wants to use the moon as the biggest garbage dump. It- that's what he wants to do. He says, I'm going to save the planet by taking everything that's on this planet that's toxic and ship it to the moon.
I just shoot it into space.
I don't
It
know.
may hit an unsuspecting civilization, and then all of a sudden,
Well, if they
Man,
if they can't if they
man,
can't figure out how to handle it, we're talking billions of years. It's kind of like
as
there's
opposed to
this.
burying it in the ground, which is what they do for like uranium, which is supposed to be like how many thousands and thousands of years
Well,
of
yeah,
an
shooting stuff
afterlife?
into space really is not as cost efficient. So
yeah, put it,
as burying it
put
out
it,
in the desert.
yeah, but when I stumbled across, there's again a majority of the people, unfortunately, uh, are not awake, in any way, shape, or form. Maybe that's not even the right. They're unaware. They're just unaware. But for someone like me that are watching, people focused on things that everyone used to believe was impossible, including AI. So I'm just like going again. It's pretty fun for me to wake up each and every day being more excited about the day or the week or the month prior because I know that things are being created where it'll allow me to do what I do best, and that's get people to imagine again, to really get them in a mentality place where they can go, wow, I watched a cool commercial today, and I think it was called, I think it's from the website Hate Without Labels. And I know that some people would probably say, "Oh my God, Robert's supporting things that are for everybody." But it was just saying on there that, there's a company that monitors how many times hate is used on the social medias and how much love is used on social media. And it was staggering. It was like hate was, 300 million or 30 billion or something like that. And the word love was like 2 trillion. And
I
so
got I just
all they're saying is that, if you're focused on a world that says that it's awful and it's dying and everything's toxic and everything is going to die, the general world social media is more people are posting things about love and inspiration and hope and wanting it to be better. So if you're somehow being attracted by the small part of the hate and the ugly and I hate the blue, I hate the red. It's like I believe that people just are not aware that that's a choice.
It's the strangest secret. We
Yeah,
become what we think about. I mean,
it's
that's
a
one thing I loved
choice.
about it, and I've been listening to it. And thank you for resharing it at the beginning of the year, Robert,
Matt put it on
because
the gift page. Thank you,
it's
Matt.
on the gift page. So you go to roberthollis.com/gift,
figured it out.
and it's there. Thank you, Matt. Yes, but it's a great way to kind of, if you want to say it in this way, get started for the beginning of the year, because
Yeah.
when you think about it, the uh, it's kind of like we're in the middle of a reset. Okay, it's today is the 17th of January. We're 17 days into the brand new year. Let's go ahead and make this maybe the first month of starting to set things up so that the rest of 2025 can be even better than 24. Robert, what you shared last week on the Ask Me Anything was incredible, because it kind of
Thanks.
says, let's go ahead, find out what we need to do, and not repeat what we've done in 24, 23, 22, 21, 2020. And let's go ahead and imagine or imaginate what we're looking at
Become
down the road.
imaginator. Become
Become an
imaginator.
imaginator. Make 25 part of your imagination. Exactly.
Perfect, Craig. A thought that I had today that I'm going to bring up at the AMA tomorrow, and I know Craig will be great at promoting that. There's a pretty, I would say there's more than less. Anyway, I'll say it different. There's more people that would probably agree with this statement. You are what you eat. Now, there's going to be some outliers, no doubt about it. You know what I mean? There's going to be some people go, I think that's total bullshit. That's not true in my environment or what I think. But, for me personally, if I indulge in something as at 62, almost 63, there's only one thing that I indulge in that I take too much of, and I can feel my body respond to it instantly. And that's sugar. So, people are looking at me and going, "You're overweight." That should be pretty obvious. But if I have more sugar than I normally do, I can feel it in my body, whether it's a dull headache or my feet, sometimes hurt like gout or something like that. But the only thing that really is my bugaboo is I love sugar. You know what I mean? And I know that sugar's not good, but with that statement, what I want to tell everybody, and we'll bring this up tomorrow, is that you are what you listen to. You are what you listen to. So that's probably a different way of the old books and all the wisdom of old books talking about you become what you hang around. I felt like I needed to find a way to change that, because Matt sent me a cool video that just brought it all home again with one of his favorite directors dying, David Lynch, and he sent me a video about him going off on transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
And you guys have heard me bring this up in all kinds of videos. The only reason that people don't do what they're supposed to do is because of their interpretation and meaning of the word, right? There are people out there that associate, unfortunately, nothing good with the word love. It's sad, but someone used that to hurt them. Someone used that to cause them trauma. And so you use the word love, and it's a trigger for them. It's a trauma trigger for them, and that's pretty sad. But I used to say, listen, you got to meditate. So when I listened to that yesterday, and Matt, just to show you how far I went with that, I was like, man, I got to find out because there's not one in Billings. There's one in, I think, Missoula or something. But it's like, I'm going to take a deal and travel to California, spend some time in an Airbnb and find out where one of these TM centers is because it just keeps bringing it back to me. And I know that some of you will go, I wouldn't do that. I've heard that's like airy fairy. Well, I'm going to do it and then figure out what's best for me by talking to me. But me not knowing is not a place for me. Me, I don't want to take your word or anybody else's word because we become what we listen to. I'm not going to take your word on whether or not something is good or not good for me. There's just too many people out there that have said that TM and a form of meditation. And as soon as I said meditation, I just love that they're the ones that always brought it back to me is the way that they sell TM is basically telling you what it's not, what it's not. Because most people's definition of meditation is I can't do it, I fall asleep, I can't keep my mind quiet, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. Maybe it has something to do with holding your fingers a certain way and doing a mantra, or maybe doing a humming thing. See, people don't work on the art of meditation because of their description in their mind of what they heard from other people that it is, right? What if you're fucking doing it wrong? All right. So everything that I've heard from Jerry Seinfeld to all the people that done this is Jerry Seinfeld did it to create Seinfeld. Larry David did it when they created Seinfeld. I'm going like, so, Jerry Seinfeld says, yeah, you're supposed to do it twice a day, but I only did it at lunch 15 minutes every day. So he only did half of what you're supposed to do. And he's worth $1 billion, So, so
I think you touch on a very good point, Dad, because like I think when people think about this stuff, and I think even with religion, it's similar, right? Like
everything.
if you see somebody excelling in life and you admire them, there's someone that you see as a mentor or you have admiration for them, you're going to look at the process at which they get the results that they do, and you're going to go, do I want to do that process? Does that fit with me or not? And I think a lot of people get lost in like trying different things, but the reality is like, man, why would I try transcendental meditation? Well, one of the people that I admire creatively did it and got great results out of it. And it's like, man, is that the end of it? No. Who else do you admire that has this connected to them? Well, you love the creativity of John Lennon and the Beatles, right? Okay, yeah, they did it too. Okay, well, let me keep going and figuring this out. And I think like a lot of people hate religion and those and spirituality and different types of things. If you come from like my side of it, like you don't like
Sure.
organized religion, right? They come from it because like yesterday when I was driving, me and Hannah were driving because I had to give blood yesterday. So we're going to the hospital and we're coming
Had to
back.
or got to.
Got to, I guess. Yeah. But
You
anyway,
didn't you didn't have like someone hold a gun to your head saying that you got to get blood.
unless if you count that person as Hannah. He's
Okay,
like,
okay.
you're going and getting checked. You're getting the Idaho
Okay,
physical and
listen,
then had
listen.
blood
Oh, okay.
drawn
So
and
it was
everything
because of
like
the
that.
labs to go to see your doctor.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Nothing
got it.
There
wrong
we
with
go.
me, you guys. It's just one of those physical
Just the
checkups
normal
Okay.
checkup,
and
which I had to do too. I
So I
yeah.
I
should have
had that last
listened.
week.
I should have listened. You had
And
to.
so
Okay, go
so I
ahead.
did the physical checkup. I did the physical checkup before Christmas, right?
Got it.
And so I went in and they're like, you're great, your ear, everything's great with you. And I'm like, awesome, right? And then they're like, Hannah's like, well, let's just do the blood test as well. Let's make sure everything is
Yeah,
great with him, right? Cholesterol's good. Because I'm 33 now. So now is the age that you got to kind of start doing this every year, right? Like instead of putting it off, let's be preventative with our
right.
health instead of responsive.
Yes.
And so Speaking to that, what I'm about to say makes no sense, but then it's like they give me the blood work paper, and then I know I have to fast, I know I have to do all this shit, so I just keep kicking the can down the street. You know what I mean? Past Christmas, past I'm like, it's my birthday. I'm waking up, so my birthday is January 3rd, and then boom, before you know it, it's January 16th, and I still haven't went in and had my blood drawn so the doctor can look at it and tell me I'm fine, right? Hannah's like, you got to do this. You got to do this. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to have to do I don't want to have to wake up and not have coffee and do the fast and go in immediately and have 4 vials of blood drawn and all this shit, right? And I'm young and there's nothing wrong with me. So because
And
of
you're
that, I'm not
human.
in a
We just found
rush.
out that you're human.
Right.
Yeah. How many of us put that
Exactly.
off all the time?
Yeah. So I keep putting it off to the point where I finally go, all right. It's like Hannah's like, let's go do blood and then we'll get brunch afterwards. And it's like, great. We get to go have brunch after that. So that's what
Is
we
that a
ended
new
up
thing?
doing.
Blood and brunch?
I mean, you need something after they take all that out of you. You've been
Yeah.
That's true.
fasting.
That's true.
And speaking of blood sugar, you gotta get your
You
pancake.
gotta take a lot of spinach, eat a lot of spinach.
Exactly. I'm a spicy guy, so I got huevos rancheros. The
Oh,
but the I don't even know where I was going with that.
you were getting your blood drawn. You were.
I was getting my blood drawn, but what was my point with that?
I think your point was you just have to do things to make yourself happy because it came from the meditation part. And
Right.
okay.
So it's from a lot of the certain things, and there's like, okay, listen, I have been going down the Lynch hole now for like years. I love David Lynch. I love Twin Peaks. I love most of his work. I find the guy very fascinating, not just in films in general. But he is now, I lost my grandfather from lung cancer, and I saw what that looked like. And for a while, like I remember distinctly having a conversation with my grandfather about this, where he was like, "Listen, Matt, just don't smoke. Like it's just not worth it, right?" Um, Time goes by, my wife used to smoke. She quit, cigarettes and stuff, but my wife did smoke weed. Okay, well, when we got married, hadn't really ever partaken in that, so I tried it, and it's become like my kind of go-to thing, right? She doesn't do it at all anymore. She hate like
Wow.
Hannah's doesn't
It's interesting.
take it at all. She doesn't smoke it at all. Nothing. Just gives her anxiety. She doesn't really like it as much. But for me, it's really helped. Now, on the other side of that, you don't understand these certain things that are in your brain. I grew up going to and watching my grandfather sit, cowboy hat, working in the field, smoking a cigarette, looking like a badass, right? And so I have this whole idea of what a cowboy is, smoking, and then I look at this director that I admire, kind of almost like a father figure in a sense,
Sure.
creatively. And he's chain smoking cigarettes, and they're part of all of his work and everything. And I think subconsciously, like I would go out on my balcony and light up a joint and sit out there and just look at the stars and just allow myself to be creative and by myself. David Lynch died. I'm not smoking ever again. Like that's just there's something in my mind that clicked. I'm like, this shit's not you know what I mean? Like
I
there's some
remember
certain
when,
reality to it that's not really
yeah.
worth it. But like
The
in my
fact that it hit
brain,
you at that time, maybe if it was earlier or later, you would have had a different
Yeah,
response.
when I
But
heard
this hit that.
when I heard of David Lynch, and I don't know anything. I found out more about him in the last 24 hours than I've
yeah,
ever. And
probably.
yeah, and what was really amazing is that people said, God, he was so young. God, he was so young. And then, on the news last night, they said, yeah, from small cells lung cancer. And I was like,
Emphysema.
man. You know what I mean? And it's like sometimes when people hear about, small cell lung cancer, that's one of those things where people go, well, that's just what happens when you smoke, and it's like,
We accept it, right?
yeah, it's like,
And you
hey,
don't, and the thing is too, is like people, this is what young people do, and I do this too. I go, artificial intelligence is on its way, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna have to deal with the ramifications of my actions at 33, right? And you think about these things in such a long-term thing. And this, I
Yeah.
love that you brought up food, Dad, because this is another example. Not as bad necessarily as smoking, but can be depending on what you eat, right?
Absolutely.
Whatever
And
you are
So,
an
addicted to.
overindulgence in anything.
Yes.
right.
You can go your car from 0 to 120 miles an hour. You just keep going a little faster or a little longer at 120 miles an hour, and there's bad things that happen.
Hmm.
Well, what is that thing, that phrase, especially when you're driving? You get used to whatever it is you're used to. You,
Yeah.
after driving 65, 75 miles an hour and you have other cars passing you, it's like, why am I so freaking slow? And you're
Yeah.
already 10 to 15, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Well, it's those habits that are bad to break, right? Because then when
Yeah.
you start hitting a flow, you hit that flow state. And what ends up happening is, say it's 12 a.m., 1 a.m. at night. My wife's asleep, the dogs are taken care of, everything's fine. I'm sitting outside looking at the stars, smoking a joint, knowing after as I'm thinking of things that I'm going to come in here and I'm going to write, and I'm going to make shit. That becomes part of your habit and your routine to the point that then when you start eliminating it, it feels like, oh, I can't be as creative as I used to be. I can't be because you've ingrained certain
It's
things
a
from,
crutch. In turn,
The
yes,
that's
yeah.
good.
what there's another thing that they call it, like when you go, like
But
when,
it's
if
a
you're a
bad
baseball
habit
player,
because,
you
right.
go your routine,
Right,
Yeah.
because
your
you
performance
think long
routine.
term, and anyone that smokes knows this. But you think long term. You go, yeah, when like my lungs get bad enough or certain things happen, things will get better. AI, all these different things. But the reality is that it fucking hurt my lungs every day now.
Yeah.
There wasn't like me coughing when I got up in the morning or whatever. These random things that you become used to, then you quit and you realize, holy shit, like that was a habit as well. I was so used to
Yeah.
having that feeling in my lungs that I don't have anymore. And I went through like a 3 week break from weed in general, like through the beginning of the year. So I didn't smoke at all then. And so I felt it then, but then it was like I got back to it. I'm like, I get to be creative now. I took my sabbatical break. Now I can do this and it won't be as bad, right? And it's still as bad. So then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I need to just quit. I've lost another person that I idolized early to something that they shouldn't have died from. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Hmm.
Well,
And
thank you
David
for
Lynch is
bringing
one of
that.
those people
Yeah,
that, yeah.
me, a couple of times if I'm overindulgence in anything, is whatever I choose to do. I'm usually obsessive about it. So
I
you
get
guys,
that from you, yeah.
yeah. So you guys remember when I recently did, not too many months ago, but I did a 17-day fast. You
That's
know
I
what I
right.
yeah, I remember.
and man, did I frickin' feel amazing. Holy cow. And all my aches and pains, other than losing 35 pounds, it's like
Hmm.
all my little aches and pains are gone. And I'm just like, and then when you get in a good routine, or let's put a real positive on it, and creating your new routine that's
Right.
going to be Kaizen. It's going to be never ending improvement. Then I started immediately finding out that I had time for all this stuff. You know what I mean? So I have a sauna, I have a oxygen chamber, I have all this stuff. I got the
Right.
best that money can buy, and it sits there. And then all of a sudden I watched which I would advise everyone to do. You can get a lot out of it. But man, Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson was the thing that did it for me. So I'm sitting there talking, and the guys, they're talking about all kinds of stuff, religion, all kinds of stuff, right? And all of a sudden, um, Mel Gibson said something where he was going, yeah, he said all of a sudden, things just wasn't clicking for me. And I freaked myself out. I thought there was definitely something wrong with who I am, maybe Alzheimer's or stuff like that. And he says, all you got to do is say that to a couple of people that are connected. And all of a sudden, someone said, well, you got to go see Dr. Amen. And Joe Rogan said, I've heard of him. And he's going, man, this guy, I quit smoking immediately. I started going into this oxygen chamber. And he goes, everything just turned like so fast in my life. And I'm going like, me and Matt's done that.
Hmm.
Well, people go, it's expensive going into a pressurized oxygen chamber. No, I bought one. I have one in my house. Oh, when was the last time you got in it? I don't remember, but you know how important it is to me? I take it everywhere I move. Like when I think
Yep.
about moving someplace, this big giant thing
Well, it's
has to
because it's
go
part of
in.
your future plans to do it.
Part of my future plan.
Your
But Joe
future
Rogan,
routine is to get into the oxygen
right.
chamber. And
And
so,
then the other thing that he said was, he goes, oh, also, that same guy got me in front of Gary Brecka. You know what I mean? And I mean, he says, I feel like I'm 30, 40 years old. And Joe Rogan says, yeah, when people tell you stuff, you usually go, well, bullshit. He goes, the person that told me about Gary Brecka was Dana White. And he says, I get to see him all the time. And every time I seen him, he had more energy. He looked better. He was smaller. Uh, um, and he goes, a lot of people say this bullshit that, hey, I have a lot of energy. Why do I need more? He goes, why wouldn't you want to run 100% of your capability? And he goes, so all of a sudden I'm watching Dana White doing cold plunges and he's in the infrared bed, you know what I mean? And he's breathing this oxygen and and stuff. And Mel Gibson goes, yeah, I've heard about that. He goes, I started doing Brecca, but then I didn't, he's honest. He goes, I stopped. And he goes, how about you? Joe Rogan goes, I fucking do it all. He goes, I do it all. And he goes, really? He goes, I got my cold plunges down to 34 degrees. And Mel Gibson goes, you got to be out of your fucking mind. And he goes, man, I get up and he goes, there's two thoughts in my head. The little bitch, that little bitch that's in there. And then he goes, and guess who the other one is? The other one is the fucking general. And he goes, I get to make up my mind every second I wake up. Is the little bitch going to win or is the general going to win? So the little bitch is going, you don't miss a day. You can miss today. And the general's like, get your fucking clothes off and get in the water, bitch. He's like, and you see Mel Gibson, his eyes got big and he's going, yeah, yeah, I got to do that. I got to. But it's like it's funny that we listen again. So, when you say meditation, I think again people have too much shit around it, too much shit around it. And I've seeked out TM, I'm not exaggerating, probably 50 times. And
well, you're
just
more, you meditate every day anyway. So,
total meditation for me now, other than listening to 8 hours while I sleep, is 30 minutes before I go to sleep and 30 minutes when I first get up. So when I
mhm.
first get up, it's 6 phase meditation. When I lay down, put my neck pillow on after giving Terry a kiss goodnight, I listen to the Bob Proctor meditation. And right after that, I listen to the Bob Proctor 8 hours. And
Mhm.
you say that it's not effective, but do you realize when the meditation quits, I'm wide awake and I'm not going, I need to hit the snooze button. I need to roll over. No, I mean it's 6 o'clock and that audio will stop and I open my eyes and I'm out of bed. Not, you know, and so, and I also spend at least 20 minutes and whatever you guys want to call it. I'll just call it talking, my gratitude session.
Mm.
Because as soon as say that that's my prayer time, then people are like, I already got all this that I've listened to and put in my mind what prayer is. Me, what I do is 20 minutes of I'm so happy and grateful. There's not a morning, there's not a time every day that I don't say Matt and Hannah's name out loud, Craig's name out loud. I just man, it's who I am. I'm
That's sweet.
happy and grateful for you two. I want you around. I want you to be protected. I'm so happy and grateful that you guys are protected. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I got my little circle, and I'm praying over that circle. And if some of you are not in the inner circle, you know what I mean? I did two inners because some of you are in the inner circle. The imaginators. It's like, yeah, I'm always praying for everything that's ever happened to me, every penny I've ever made, every dollar I made, every person that's been put in my life. And I'm happy for all the millions and billions that are coming. It's like yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
gonna be a crazy life when you can go do an event in Dubai and then go home afterwards.
yeah.
And like
You
you
know
were
what I
talking
mean?
about
Like,
earlier, where you go up in a
well,
plane,
that's what
hold
I'm
for 20
saying. I'm
minutes,
saying
come back
if
down,
Robert Hollis
get in
lives
your
near one of
meditation
those
mode right
rocket
there.
things, you could go to Dubai and do a meeting and then get back on a rocket at the end of the night and be home for dinner.
Well,
You
I
know?
want you guys to talk about when you stretch your imagination like that. You know what the old Robert Hollis would say as soon as he heard this conversation? Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen, but who can afford to be on that rocket?
Yeah,
And this
probably.
Robert Hollis is like, I'll be one of the fucking first 1,000 people that
You bring
ride
up a
that
good
fucking
point,
thing.
and actually, I'm
Oh
gonna I'm
yes.
gonna segue this into the second talk that I was thinking about. We should have from this, and that's a TikTok, because
Oh
look
yeah,
at that segue.
yeah.
TikTok's about to be banned in the United States in the
That was
next
something
48
that Santa
hours.
Corky brought up at the beginning of the podcast as
And in
something
general, I think
else for this weekend.
it's a good thing to bring up because there's a lot of people right now that
It'll
go,
never
I cannot
happen.
wait.
It'll
Well,
never
listen,
happen.
they're like, I cannot wait for TikTok to be banned, right? Because it's ruined society or the United States, whatever it may be. And then on the other end of the spectrum, similarly, there's a large amount of people that make a full-time income and have built a community and a following on TikTok that are now about to have their whole entire following disappear, right? Unless if they've been capable or able to transfer that following, which is very hard to do,
Very,
to
very
another
hard.
medium, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
YouTube, whether it's whatever. And so the reason I wanted to bring that up a little bit is I feel like a lot of people are kind of in a panic about this right now because they haven't kind of figured out how to replicate those things somewhere else.
Yeah,
And
well,
they're
And
still
I
trying.
know.
If you want to go with like Facebook or Twitter or even Instagram
it's
with the
totally
short
different
video
still
content,
nonetheless.
I
People don't
agree.
understand. There's a reason, like, you'll have, like, Dad, you brought this up because Kyle, my younger brother, watches a lot of Twitch and a lot of stuff like that. And people always ask this question. They go, why doesn't YouTube just destroy Twitch? Like, they could do it so quickly and easily, right? The answer is not really, because Twitch has developed a community around the way that Twitch works that people will
Yep,
not leave to go watch a stream, even if it's the same stream on YouTube, because of the communal aspects of the way
right.
people talk on Twitch, the way people do things on Twitch. This exists with TikTok too, and I'm interested to see what happens. But I want your guys' opinion on it. You know, I give my own. Dad, you already kind of spilled the
Yeah,
beans on your opinion.
mine is quick. TikTok will continue to exist. That's all I'm going to tell you. My thoughts are President Trump was one of the people that said it needed to go. Now he says it's not what needs to go. And because a lot of people brought up that they were doing a lot of stuff for their following to promote Trump to get him elected. And so when all of a sudden you find out that there's a group of people that were using a platform that helped you get elected, that might change your thoughts a little bit. Then I heard someone directly ask Elon Musk, and another big talker about this is Mr. Wonderful on the Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary.
Mm.
And they've been trying to put deals together to buy TikTok. First, ByteDance has to say they want to sell it. And someone asked, what about you purchasing TikTok? He goes, nothing's going to happen to them. So right now, even though it's like, I'll get in real trouble for saying this, but I don't care. There's a lot of laws on the books in the state of California. Laws mean nothing if no one enforces them.
Of course.
Laws mean nothing if you don't fucking enforce them. So if you got a bunch of mayors of cities and governors of states that go, I don't care if there's going to be a a big deportation of people that are not legal here get deported. And then you have mayors of cities that stand up and go, yeah, but we're sanctuary cities. So our police department, our sheriff's department, all of our public people are not going to arrest people that are not legal. Well, then what do you got to do? You got to create an agency like ICE, hire 1 million people to go into sanctuary cities to deport people? See, it's like saying you're going to do something. So how is this going to do with TikTok? Is, tomorrow, Sunday, the law will ban them. But then all the people that are on their servers, they would have to make a decision to ban it. All right. So there's no one that's going to enforce the law. There's supposed to be something, I forget, I might have my numbers wrong, but I think it's like 50,000 per person that is not banned. So that means there's tech companies out there that need to make a decision Sunday afternoon to no longer allow people to see TikTok on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen. So I'll tell you one other part. I used to be in the deregulation of gas and electricity. It's a law. It's a fucking federal law, just like marijuana is a federal law. Robert, I can go right down the street and buy it. I know it's a federal law. Banks are trying to enforce it, but no one's enforcing the dude going down here or the girl going down here and buying a couple joints. You got to enforce it. So federal's going to say that it's illegal, but then bunch of local companies are not going to be fined for keeping TikTok on it. They get paid by bandwidth. So like I said, they deregulated gas and electricity. They said it's unfair. It's a monopoly in the state of California. We're going to deregulate utilities. I signed up 2.6 million customers that never got fucking turned on. Signed them up. They agreed. I want to leave Pacific Gas and Electric. I want to leave them. And no one did. Because when AT&T got deregulated for being a monopoly, the government wasn't enforcing them not turning people over. Then the government got pissed at AT&T and they said, listen, we're going to fine you $10,000 per person. Well, how many people? Well, 1 million. All right. AT&T is making $2.6 billion a day. They got to sign a check for 100,000.
Like the oil spill or something, right?
It's exactly the same thing. So laws are not enforced unless the pressure becomes too high. You know what I mean? So I predict, and then I'll let Craig go, I predict that Sunday afternoon, there's not a company that's currently making money from TikTok. We're not talking about the TikTokers. All right? We're talking people that are getting paid money for bandwidth, for the selling of the app. All the people out there that have to be out there to make sure that TikTok runs on everyone's phone. They're not going to enforce it. They're going to wait for the government to enforce it. And then Monday, there's a new sheriff in town, and he's not going to force anyone to federally force it.
Right. Well, I mean, he could just
That's going to be the interesting thing is when Trump takes over,
executive order
what
it.
is going... I'm sorry, what, Matt?
Well, I was going to say he's just going to executive order it when he gets in.
More than likely. And then now it's interesting because I was watching the news yesterday or listening to it. And even, all right, if we're going to talk about the red team versus the blue team, Chuck Schumer, who is the Democratic Party leader of the Senate, has said, maybe we should push this back another 90 days so that we can reevaluate. Because obviously that whole thing was back then.
Yeah.
Okay, cliche. That was then. This is now. Back then it was like, oh my God, the evil of TikTok. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Well, the blue team,
and then now
Yeah, the blue team figured out how the red team wins when, and so they got a 4-year game plan to figure out how to use the same shit that the red team used to win. And it's like, hey, let's not touch anybody that's a podcaster, an influencer, a streamer, or a
Yeah.
TikToker. We need those people to get
Even
win
though the
back the White
Supreme
House.
Yeah, even though the Supreme Court recently said that they are going to uphold the ban, but it will be interesting, as you said, okay, how long, first of all, how long is that going to take place? And two, are they going to have an emergency session among all the other things that they need to talk about in our government? Are they going to have an emergency session today, tomorrow, or Sunday? Sunday at whatever time.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Sunday, where they're going to people in who know about that, where they're going to go, this wasn't such a great idea after all. Let's go ahead, put it off, and we will look into it maybe in the next month, 2 months, 3 months. You know what?
Ah,
We're getting taxes from the people that are making money
yeah.
off of TikTok. Let's maybe leave it
Here's the
alone and
thing.
see what we can do about that.
Here's the thing that I still fucking think is stupid. Now I'll end it with this. It's like TikTok is monitoring people in the US's data. And the app runs on a phone that was made in China. It's like, I'm going like, hey, this thing came from China and they aren't smart enough to put something in this phone to track my data. That's
Well, and what was the other thing that was shared yesterday too? Is that TikTok is owned. TikTok is owned by somebody who is not of the Chinese government. Number one. Number two, it is considered a U.S. based company.
And guess where the CEO is going to be on Monday?
Of course, at the inauguration.
Front row seat.
Front row seat. Yeah, literally right there in the galley or gallery with all of the dignitaries. Of course, Bezos, and Zuckerberg, and
Zuckerberg,
All the other,
and Bezos,
all the other people that paid
By
for
the
the
way,
seats.
just want to give a shout out real quick to Bill Shoemaker. Bill, thank you for the donation.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
All the money that is donated in the super chat goes to the orphanages and other organizations that Robert supports. So thank you so very much, Bill, for doing so. Click the $sign at the bottom of the chat to go ahead and donate.
I don't have all of our records yet, but I if I were guessing, it was like a little over 21,000 last year. 21,000 that we gave to charities.
I mean, that's life changing over like for the schools and stuff. It is. It really is life changing. So
Yeah.
Even
thank you guys so
$100
much.
is life changing when you think about it, because that can be used towards defraying the cost of something or to the cost of something.
Yeah, just to talk briefly about that, because I love saying this. I don't think I could say this enough. Michael and Angel, Matthew and Angel,
Part
reached
of
out.
Jesus Way, which you donate to.
JesusWay.org. It's funny. I said this story before, but I'll be brief with it. They reached out to me around Thanksgiving and said, we're thinking about doing something different. We've seen another orphanage do this. And you could not believe the energy and the smile and the joy and the peace in these kids' lives. And there's one thing that we're asking you to do. It's going to be a little more than what you normally do around Christmas, but I want you to hear the idea. And I said, I'm listening. And it said, when boys and girls go to pick out their uniforms for school, that all the school did it in 3 different colors: red, yellow, and blue. And because the child got to pick their color, it made it feel like theirs. Because they got to do one thing that every one of us that listens to this video live or recorded don't realize that we have. And that's the ability to fucking choose something. Can you imagine being in a community or growing up in a way where you don't get to choose?
Mm.
I got put in that. I got locked up for over a year. I didn't get a choice on nothing. That's their job. Their job is to strip you from every human right you have. You don't get the choice for nothing. Nothing. These are the clothes that you'll wear. This is when you're going to sleep. This is when we're shutting off the lights. You, when you get in line in mess hall and you get put food on it, I guess you do have the choice not to eat or eat. I think that most people would probably, after a certain amount of time, even if it's 17 days, you're going to choose to eat.
Right.
But yeah, when they said that, they didn't understand what that meant to me because I've been in places in my life where I couldn't choose.
Mhm.
And that's something that, again, if you guys don't know anything to be happy and grateful for, what if every day that you just I get to do this. I don't have to do this unless you're giving blood and Hannah's your wife. It's like
Right.
joke,
Which,
joke.
by the way, if you guys knew me and knew like how my mind works, the fact that that took me a long time to go do is actually like a massive, it's weird to say this, massive mental accomplishment for me that it wasn't on my mind. Because if you know shit about me and you know that I struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder, you know that one of the main things that I deal with is this compulsion that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah,
Like that physically there's what do they call it? There's even a word for it.
hypochondriac.
Hypochondriac, right. Except, obsessive compulsive disorder like takes that to another level where it's like causing panic attacks. I'm like, to the point, guys, where like in my life where I wasn't taking care of myself mentally, I'm like, there's a lump in my neck. I'm gonna die. I have, cancer. To the point where I've gone to the doctor and had blood tests done thinking I had it, and they all came back going, you don't have it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you, right? And this is all in my brain, right? When you go in, and the number one thing they recommend you do is get psychiatric help instead of physical help. You probably go, okay, I need to work on my brain a little
Yeah.
bit. I need to get
Yeah.
something done.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm like, oh shit, I kicked this can down the road and I'm not thinking about my health really at all, just kind of goes to show like where my brain actually
Proud
is
of
at
you,
this
Matt.
point. It
Proud of
doesn't
you, Matt.
doesn't really think about those things anymore.
Well,
But
for those of you that don't need to know the whole
yeah,
story, but that's why Matt and I flew to see Dr. Amen
that's why
and
I
get
got
our
diagnosed by Dr. Amen.
and got and yeah, it was sort of funny. I there's so many subjects that Mel Gibson and believe it or not, I watched the entire one with Mark Zuckerberg and Joe Rogan, and it was really funny, Matt. If you haven't watched the whole thing, I just tell you guys
I'm like
to
behind
watch
on a
it.
couple of those because I haven't
Yeah.
watched the Zuckerberg one
It
either.
was really crazy. I don't remember the moment in the podcast. But him and Joe Rogan were going back and forth and they're talking about all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden you could just feel this shift in the way that they're talking. And Joe Rogan brought it up first and he goes, it's nice to be talking to you. And he looked at his watch and he said, yeah, that took longer than normal. And then all of a sudden, they both started laughing at each other. And then all of a sudden, Mark goes, no one ever talks about that, do they? And Joe goes, what? And he goes, where you get all worked up and you know you're going to be asked certain kind of questions and you already got prepared answers in your mind and you've gone through over and over and over different things that you could say, and then when you said them, how people would take sound bites and fuck that all up and ruin your life to the point where you're sitting in front of somebody and you're going, I trust this guy, I'm going to say whatever comes to my heart and I don't give a fuck.
Hmm.
And Matt used to know me when he recorded me all the time. I would be in a wide open moment of recording. We had some things to, and he'd right in the middle of it would just go cut. And I go, fuck, I'm in a roll. And he
Yeah,
goes, yeah, that's why we're starting over.
right.
because The first part of the shit, you were thinking too much. You were coming up with canned answers. You were coming up with shit that you expected people to say. You're also, as soon as they did that little wharf, you seen Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, and I'm like, I think this guy is the coolest fucking guy on the planet now. You know what I mean? Because you got to see him. And Joe Rogan even asked him, he goes, well, where did you think that came from? And he goes, are you kidding me? Overnight, everyone tells me I'm a billionaire. And now we're going public. So they want me to show up in front of all these elite people and people that are supposed to have all the money that are going to sell my stock. And so I show up and I got sandals on and jeans and a hoodie. And now everyone rips me apart. He said it didn't make a difference what I fucking said. They would take sound bites and make me look like a fucking idiot. And he goes, that's why I don't like talking on television. Their goal is not to make you look good. Their goal is to destroy you and make you look like a fucking idiot. And I went,
a lot of people have woken up to
holy
that,
shit.
obviously.
And then all of a sudden, Joe Rogan said, well, you're here. And he goes, everything's changing. I don't want to spook people, but everything is changing. He said, the people that want to be people, that really truly love people and want to make an impact, don't have to worry about that group of people that are trying to fucking destroy them anymore. And I went, where is this coming? Well, that went right into mixed martial arts. And Mark Zuckerberg has already done a couple of moves where he's under knee. He totally destroyed his fucking knee and had to go through rehab. And Joe goes, oh, so when the master tells you to tap, you didn't tap. Nope. He goes, tell me, everyone that got hurt. He goes, I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, I went in, we had a great workout. We've been working out for like 3 hours, but I mentally in my mind felt like I had more. And he said, my sensei, my master said, we're done. And I looked over at him and I went, one more round. Stupidest fucking mistake I ever made in my life. He goes, so I go in there to throw a kick. The guy tried to check it. I tried to lift my hips to go over his check. Snap. My knee went out from underneath me. And now I'm being carried to the hospital. And he said, the master said that was enough. So now I got a year of rehabilitation because I don't know how to fucking listen. And Joe Rogan went,
it's nice when like a lesson is that quick. Normally they're not.
Yeah. And
right?
But
and Joe
sometimes
Rogan
that's
goes,
what it takes is that experience
Yeah.
in order to learn the lesson, which you've shared many times, Rob.
oh,
Elon Musk could use something similar so bad right now. Somebody that can take him and kind of like put him in a place where he doesn't. Well, it's not even a check. It's like put him in a place where he's himself again, I should say.
Yeah.
He's not so worried about everybody else's opinion of him, right?
Yeah. So, Mark Zuckerberg was saying that, some of you just got to watch it because me, of course, I'm watching and
I'm watch after this.
I'm not trying to be egotistical when I say this statement. I just know based on how hard I've worked on myself that I'm listening with different ears. I listen to podcasts and I'm picking up shit and I'm like, wow, that's a life lesson right there. And because when people get to trust each other and they're just randomly doing a mastermind between themselves, it's like shit was coming from all over the place. And so now that they had that melting point, Matt, if you just watched the last 10 minutes, you'd watch the whole thing because Mark Zuckerberg all of a sudden got into a realm where all of a sudden he's going, he said, I got here late. He said, Joe, did you get to use the new glasses? And he goes, holy fuck.
All right.
And he goes, shit. If we tried to sell those right now, they'd be 10 grand. The price is just way too out there. But
you can't even replace them if they break.
What do you think? And I didn't know this, but Mark Zuckerberg He wasn't good enough to go to the Olympics, but he was a national champion in fencing. And so he fenced with Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's going, "Fuck, man, you're good." And he goes, "Well, whatever." And he goes, "I love the game." He goes, "My
Mhm.
game is to see where you're weak and then get you to do something weak so I can get you." That's Mark Zuckerberg. And all of a sudden you're going, ah, there's a part that I don't know. And
Like
he's
the
going,
competitive part.
yeah, and he just goes, and honestly, he says, I want everyone to win when it comes to AI and AR and VR. But if anyone thinks that I'm not a player in this game, I'll get the last laugh like I always do. Yeah. He goes, let everybody go out there and play their game. And so now he's open. He said something that he's telling the world, I'm gonna fucking get you again. Watch. And he goes, everybody told me that Google was gonna squish me, that everyone was coming out with other social networks. Guess what? I know who gets hit the biggest. I don't care
Well,
if
it's like
Google,
a
he says, I don't care if Google is the biggest. They tried to try to create something like Facebook and they didn't do it. And just like Matt said, it's like, how do you pull people away from Facebook if Google comes out with something that says, we're like Facebook, but we're better. And
dude,
people go,
it's so
I don't
insane
fucking
that you
care.
can't even
I don't
you could have
care.
Microsoft show
Yeah.
up, going back to the Twitch thing, what you're talking about. You have Microsoft show up and give some of the biggest names millions of dollars and start a whole new platform. They did this called Mixer and it fail, right? And
Yeah.
so you think of like Google with social media networks. This is how
Yeah.
ingrained people are in the communities that these platforms have created.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
not like other platforms. Even if you have Instagram Reels, even if you have YouTube Shorts, they're not this. It's not the same as TikTok. It's not the same community as
Yeah.
TikTok.
Sort of brought that back. It came all
When
the way
we do
back. Yeah.
shorts, or when I do shorts, or anything like that, if you look at the demographics of people that watch shorts, it's predominantly young men, right? YouTube
Got it.
shorts. Um, you're not going to reach that same demographic with TikTok. It's just not the same.
Wow.
And so it's like to think that you're going to grow a beauty, and I don't know this, but to think you're going to go grow a beauty brand on YouTube Shorts in comparison to YouTube videos, I don't think so. I think YouTube Shorts are as where if you're going to do short form content for beauty, first thing, two things that come to my mind is Instagram and TikTok. I wouldn't
Yeah.
think YouTube Shorts,
Yeah.
right?
And so
So
one last thing that Mark Zuckerberg said that was hilarious is he goes, Joe goes, so now that I can see you're in the zone or something like that. He goes, has anybody impressed you? Like Apple? And he goes, Apple's vision, provision is excellent if you don't move your head and you just want to watch a screen. he's going. So if you want, the compute power, the battery, all of that, they got the best resolution. So if you want to just not move your head and be inspired by a nice image that is coming to you, yeah, I would say
with
that's
the listen, with the Vision Pro coming out, if you would have asked me when virtual reality and augmented reality would take off, a lot of people would say Apple. And when the Vision Pro came out, it was like one of my first realizations in a modern product that I was like, oh, Steve Jobs is dead and so is Apple.
Mark Zuckerberg said that.
Right.
Yeah, Mark
Because in
Zuckerberg.
that
Yeah,
moment, I realized they're not capable of capturing that essence that Steve Jobs was able to capture with all the other products, and that odds are we're just going to have that new version of whoever that is
yeah,
in one of these different areas with virtual reality. It won't be Mark, but like one of these people that can make it sleek and attractive and cool to be doing.
yeah.
The Vision Pro wasn't cool. It was too expensive, and I know that they're going to keep making things, but I don't. I think Apple is in a really, really bad position by not being at the forefront of artificial intelligence when it comes to these systems.
Mark said
And
the same thing.
it's gonna come back to bite them so significantly in the market. Like it's just a difficult thing to overcome.
Yeah, Mark said the same thing. Well, you just again, I keep saying this, you guys got to watch it. But when that came up, Mark Zuckerberg said, he goes, so you have a little bit of beef, Joe Rogan said to Mark Zuckerberg. And he goes, let me just say this and we'll end it. He goes, every person other than Apple would have made 10 times more money if it wasn't for Apple. And Joe Rogan goes, what do you mean? Apple will do everything in their fucking power to make sure you don't succeed. And he says, their time's over. Their time's over. He said, I called up and did everything nice that I could possibly do with my last glasses to make it connect to an iPhone or any iProduct. They say that it's privacy. They won't give you the right code. And he brought up one right away. Do you know my Apple phone will not stay connected to a Bluetooth speaker?
Unless if it's an Apple one.
If it's an Apple one, it will. But if I connect this to anything that's not Apple, it'll go for a while, but then it'll disconnect itself. And then you got to So
this is where proprietary stuff kills the company who has the proprietary. Kodak is a classic example, and they haven't been able to build back up since. You've got the film industry.
Are they still in business?
Yeah.
Barely, I think.
Well, that's the thing is like you just have to survive.
Blockbuster, that's another one.
Right. Blockbuster was a lost cause in this situation, but Kodak kind of lives in that same position. It's so interesting because it's like, okay, say you were printing vinyl records. If you were printing vinyl records and you watch cassettes come out, then CDs and then digital, right?
Oh, that whole revolution, yeah.
You're going, all right, probably a good idea to let vinyl go as a business model. Wrong, because there's a large amount of people that then grew up that had no idea about vinyl, that it became its own little niche industry to the point that every big artist now, from Taylor Swift to anybody, prints vinyl records and sells them, and they sell out.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So think to yourself, you go listen to the whole album right now on MP3 on Spotify for free, and yet someone would spend $50 for a printed vinyl record so then they could physically put it in their vinyl record player and put it on to physically listen to it. Right?
I know
Kodak's
people,
the same.
I know
taking
people
photos,
yeah.
having organic photos now is like come back around in a niche way where there's a large amount of people that will have, those old photographs in their apartment or their house so Kodak's lived off that.
I know people that have limited edition. I know people that have I know people that have limited edition Blu-rays with the editor's cut.
Oh, wow.
I just ordered some. you know the person. They're all in storage. Yeah. I got a library full of books. I got all that. I'm a physical hoarder.
Okay, and I got one for you that I just found last night. Okay. No, it's just okay. I'm going through old stuff. Yes, I'm a pack rat, but I got to show this because
that's called a hoarder.
Yes.
Okay.
Check this out. It is a stamp with the letter G on it. I think this is going back to the 90s.
Holy
And now,
cow.
of course, we have the forever stamps. If we even use stamps, and how many of us even use stamps now?
Did you see the new Biden stamp? 0 cents.
Oh, Jesus.
Da-da-da-da-da-dun.
I haven't even I've been so disconnected.
Matt's used to dad jokes.
I saw that he did some speech or something to end his stuff, and his farewell speech. I haven't watched it yet.
It's interesting. It really is. It's worth a watch.
Oh, I always watch them, but I just haven't.
Especially as we get into this next weekend.
Yeah, it's like when you talk about all these billionaires and stuff giving Trump money and everything. I think if any of you guys have watched like Blade Runner or some of those movies on like a dystopia future with cyberpunk and AI and all these things, we're leaning more into that, and it's like one of those long-term plays where in the world of Blade Runner, or you could even go the world of Alien or whatever, any of these science fiction worlds, the end goal of what ends up happening is governments start to disintegrate, and really what ends up controlling the whole entire world are corporations and CEOs. That's
Yeah.
what's going to end
That
up
was done on
happening.
Rollerball years ago.
Yeah.
For those people that remember the
Mhm.
original Rollerball movie, I
That
can't speak of the other
that
one.
is the good.
Demolition Man, all those different.
Well,
Demolition.
what was the
It's
one
yeah,
with the guy with the time on his
yeah. The movie Time,
Oh
right?
no,
it was called
was it?
Time?
In
No,
Time,
with
yeah.
Justin Timberlake,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
time was embedded in his
Great,
arm.
great concept.
Yeah, I'm gonna
There's a
look
few
that one
movies
up
that
really
great
quick.
concept, poor acting, poor
Yeah.
other choices.
But but the point is that after you get around all the barriers and the security, there's
In
a place
Time.
there's a place where the rich people hang out.
Well, yeah, there's like Elysium, like those different films and stuff too. Like the odds of the super wealthy having a space station that makes them, or an island, like maybe islands out in
Or a
Hawaii.
floating paradise,
You
which
wanted
has
to,
been
if you
also
wanted to do
done.
some Googling, right? You could ask yourself, okay, what ends up happening when there's a dystopia and everyone's kind of like working. Like if you guys watch the new Alien movie, Romulus, the way that um the world works in that is people are indebted to companies based off of, like, from birth, you're running a debt tally towards these companies, and you have to work to get that debt off to do anything in your life. So even if you want to start a
Wow.
business, so your parents have you born, but they have debt, so you inherit that debt, and then as you inherit that debt, you have to work that debt off to do anything in your life. Um, you could ask yourself, well, bullshit, why don't you revolt against that? Well, there's machines everywhere that stop you from doing that. So,
Right.
that's the world we're working towards. And you'd ask yourself, why would all these billionaires be giving money, or why would they be trying to get rockets and stuff? And I made this joke to these guys yesterday when my dad said, wow, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk both had rockets go off at the same time. And I'm like, yeah, Sam Altman's building super intelligence over here with OpenAI, and they're all giving Trump money, and they're all going, if I don't hit this thing first, I ain't being under the foot of this guy. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have an island or a ship where I can get away from this shit.
Oligarchy.
But you
Well,
know what?
it's
This will
more than
sound
that with AI.
Well,
So
yeah,
this
it
will
is.
sound
the
bizarre.
oligarchs would be under the control of whoever has AGI.
Yeah. This will sound weird, but when I first met my first mentor, Roger Penske, a multi-billionaire, you can Google him, and then spending time with Bill Gould. These are the guys that got in my mind. Very, very simple. This is what they said. When you realize that life is nothing but a game, and if you take the time to learn the people that play the game the best and watch how they play, the more freedom you'll have. That's all. It was like life is a game, and some people are playing the fucking game a lot better than other people. And it's
Yeah.
like some people do it for bad, and you can have a $1 billion net worth, and everybody thinks you're cool shit, and now you can't get bail. You can use a lot of money and a lot of power to do bad things to people. Doesn't mean that it's not going to catch up to you. You know what I mean? So then you have other people that I think constantly will be checked by other people. It's like to me, I'm just believing that regardless of how bad people want to make billionaires look, I got to personally spend 7 years with a billionaire that did so much for humanity. It was fucking ridiculous. And he physically touched hundreds of thousands of people's lives every fucking day. And that was Roger Penske. And you try to find someone that says something negative about Roger Penske, and he's still checking shit off the list. I mean, he's got to be 80 already, and he's just fucking still checking shit off the list. It's fucking crazy, So won back-to-back world championships, and then won the Indianapolis 500 and then won the Indy series, the Formula One series, and the NASCAR series. It's like the guy is, and that's his fun. That's his fun. He puts everyone else in business so he can do the thing that he loves, and everyone around him calls him the captain.
But
And
Robert,
when
you
you,
have said in the past that money makes you more of what you already are.
yeah,
And here is a man who is already generous with his time, with his vision, with what he has, and he's just been able to expand it more.
yeah.
And so, yeah,
There's I'm not aware of a person, and maybe someone could look it up and Google it or AI it. I'm not aware of a person that has put more people in a world championship spot. You know what I mean? So even if you looked at like the Olympics, where you get like 5 or 8 people, like maybe all the gymnasts win a gold medal, right? But they're doing it every 4 years. You know, this guy is taking like 18 drivers and made them world champions, made them win, event after event after event. If someone put in how many different people have won a trophy with Penske Motorsports, it would fuck you up, because it's just that big. Well, the people that worked for those teams it's like football. It's like when someone wins an Indianapolis 500, yeah, they get the Borg Trophy and they get the ring and the Indianapolis 500 ring, but people don't realize so does the team. So the it's like,
okay,
it's like,
here's that
Yeah.
stat, Robert. Um, According to available information, Team Penske has won a total of 47 national championships across various racing series, with the majority coming from Indy cars, where they hold 17 championships.
and if you and there's probably, I think the number is 12 or 13. So not only they won 17 world championships, but it's 13 different drivers. So it's like it would be like someone that was good at martial arts or someone that was a good producer. Like, I know there's some names that got to come up where, like Motown, where you got these people that are just, Clyde Davis or one of these guys. It's like, hey, do you know how many people have won a Grammy from this guy's participation in their life? You sort of go, fuck, there's some people out there that just got that one guy that we talked about with the long hair that, when people come to him like Johnny
Rick
Cash.
Rubin.
Rick Rubin, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, there's these people that if you went out to the world, which I would say that probably 99% of the world don't have a clue who the fuck Roger Penske is. They wouldn't even have any reason to want to know who he is.
They'd be like,
But
I've seen the name,
yeah,
which is funny.
but if you said Roger Penske, they go, who is that? And it would be a kid from Indianapolis that, went to an Indianapolis 500 with his grandfather and started working at a car dealership, worked himself up to being part owner of that dealership, then ended up buying the dealership, then ended up having the number one car dealership of every make and model in the world. That it's like, you go to Vegas and you see Maserati or Ferrari and it's Penske something named Maserati. It's like the guy has had the number one car dealership forever. It's like it was like 17 or 18 years when I worked for him. And he's got all these things that he just does and no one knows
You know
who
what
it
I've noticed, and this connects even to like David Lynch wasn't a billionaire, but these creative people, right? There's this one quote. I don't remember. I don't think it is from David Lynch, but it was on creativity in general and just being like on your own path, right? But this whole idea that every single one of us wait for the stars to like align for us to do something.
right.
And and I heard this quote where it was like, don't wait for the stars to align, learn to play in the dark. And it's like one of those quotes that I don't think it is from David Lynch, but sounds like something he would say, where it's like we focus so much on the things that we need to have happen for us to do something instead of just having fun with what we already have.
Right.
And I think if you look at Penske or you look at any of those guys, right, it always comes down to that. Because all of us have asked ourselves this question because it's a lottery question. But you go, if I was in Mark Zuckerberg's position, why the fuck would I do anything else? Why the
Yeah.
headache? Why the frustration? If you're Elon, if you're any of these guys, why would you keep going? And it's like because they love playing in the dark.
Right.
You
Yeah,
don't know how to do
there's a
that
quote
because
here
you're
from
waiting for the stars to align.
yeah, there's a quote here from
Right.
Pharrell Williams. Don't wait for the stars to align. Reach up, rearrange them the way you want them to be. Create your own constellation.
Mm. Yeah,
Wow.
I
that's
don't know if
interesting
that's
because
this.
that even from Pharrell's case, like as interesting as that is, it doesn't really resonate with me the same way because
Right. I like
it's more like I need to know what I want. And I love the idea that you really don't know that,
yeah,
right?
when
Because
we
you have an idea of what
yeah.
that is, but the reality is that like how many of us have really thought we knew what we wanted, but then when you get it, it was the realization that it wasn't it,
Wasn't it?
right?
Wasn't it?
And so it's like, okay, if my realization was to be a billionaire or one of these guys that wanted to be a billionaire, men or
Right.
women, and then they accomplished that, why do they keep going? And that's why that quote resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
because they're already playing in the dark. It's not a thing of like all the stars
They
aligned and I
they
got what I
they
wanted, you know?
they stay in the dark. I meant there's so many things that you've exposed me to in the creative way when I'm looking at stuff that you create and other people create in AI. But for someone that's about ready to turn 63 years of age, there's stuff right now I'm physically watching with my eyes, and my comprehension in my brain is fucking telling me that I've never seen this before. I don't know how to put it together. So you send me a deal and it makes me emotional. I hope I don't embarrass you. But it's
No.
like I'm watching the guy's face that you created in AI, and I'm going like a person with no education or a young child to look at it and say that's fucking that's animation. That's AI or animation. And it fucking seems real to me. There's a magic in it that, when you see Pixar and some of these people that, the big blue guy, I'm always putting that around showing
Sully,
people, yeah, it's a big blue guy, but people
Monsters
don't
Inc. Yeah.
realize how much time was spent with just the hair moving. When he moves
Right.
around, that there's this magic thing, and a person's imagination is how real can we fucking make this look?
Hmm.
And twice it happened to me, not bragging about him, but watching this thing come out of the air, breaking sound barriers, at fucking warp speed, man, moving, 3 Mach, fucking 6,000 miles an hour, just fucking falling out of the sky and go, and then land. And then, and you just go, I seen that shit on movies. This is fucking real. This is happening in front of my eyes, and your mind's watching. You're going, am I really watching something live? And your mind goes, of course you're fucking watching something live. But there's like, and I remember that. I
Right.
remember that at the first time that I seen a rocket take off. So we're talking back when I was really, really young, and some TVs are black and white, and you see all this fire, and you see this thing going up, and it just keeps going faster and faster and faster. It's fucking gone. It's like, and it's like, I never ever thought that this would be an everyday deal.
Yeah. It's crazy too because like when you really like the pale blue dot speech by Carl Sagan, it's like every single I think when we start to become interplanetary or even as we start to travel outside the planet, the thing that happens very quickly, and if you guys haven't heard of the pale blue dot speech by Carl Sagan, please link it and like show, check it out after this. But
Blue dot sweet. Huh?
yeah, the realization that everything that has ever happened, every moment, every love, everything has all happened on this one marble that we're all sitting on, floating through what we don't know to be the galaxy and the universe, right? And the
Yeah.
distance of that and the depth of that. But the more distance you get from it, it's like a house or like when you're in an airplane, things look so much smaller, but to realize that they have so much significance even in their smallness, right? So the further we get away from planet Earth, which we call home, and see it at that distance, to realize every war fought, every single thing that's happened has all happened on this very, very small dot that we all live and die on, right? The significance of that, I'm hopeful, with time turns us into a more compassionate and
Yeah.
understanding group of people because of the understanding that the significance of destroying planet Earth really isn't understood without that distance from it,
Sure.
right? And when
I
you finally have that distance from it, you go, "Oh, we are really all one humanity. We really
Zooming out
all."
into the to see
Yes.
the macro as opposed to the micro
Yeah,
of
it's
You
the
something.
stop
it's
breaking
the
borders, stop being such a big deal when they're so insignificant,
yeah,
you
when
know?
you're looking at an Earth from the space station, you can't
Yeah.
see the borders.
Exactly. They don't exist. You could
They
draw
they
them on a
they
map, but it's all one piece, right?
right.
It's Earth. So,
Yeah, that's a strong one. That's why I said that at the beginning. It's like I know that I know that I know, and maybe I'll die and everyone will be able to say I'm wrong. But I just know that love and imagination and hope is a dominant force in my world. My little hallucination that I created is pretty fucking awesome, you know,
mhm.
and I'll never forget the day that someone told me that you can believe in heaven and earth as something that's away, or you can think of heaven and earth between your ears. And that's my world. My world is I create the world that I'm in. It's my
Mhm.
perspective. And that's why the crazy people in the world that are now looked at as geniuses, I just love when you hear the smartest people in the world go, oh, that will be on that Mel Gibson thing too, is with Joe Rogan is right away. Mel Gibson said, "Have you heard of blah blah blah?" I should have wrote it down. And Joe Rogan goes, "No," and he goes, "Yeah, they've now found pyramids that all the pyramids that we've already discovered can fit inside this pyramid." And Joe Rogan going, "What city?" You know what I mean? And right away, his guy that's with him, I've never seen a picture of him or a video of him. He's pulling it up on social media and the
Jamie, yeah.
internet. Yeah,
Um,
and all of a sudden, then Joe Rogan brings up, yeah, did you know that there was a city in the Amazon? They said that there was over 10 million people that used to live in this city. And it must have been spooky when they all left and died because no one ever wanted to go back there. And now, because of the way that
disease will do that pretty quickly. Like,
yeah,
when you think of something like COVID, but you think of none of the technology and you think of something worse than that, you can see how a society could be massive and running quite well and disappear. Believe it or not, that the existence of that is probably our number one threat,
yeah,
long term, is some disease showing up and just kind of wiping out humanity,
yeah,
without us being able to stop it. That is incredibly scary, and we really don't have a way to combat it.
right,
Um, but like what you're saying, that is really interesting too, because like I try to like, even when it comes to the pale blue dot stuff or anything you're talking about in between, when I think about artificial intelligence, or I think about, some people kick around the idea that we're like living in a simulation,
right.
right?
I've
The
heard that.
Matrix.
So let me give this to you guys, and I want you guys to
Sure.
ponder this thought. Um, an artificial intelligence system becomes smarter and smarter. It becomes self-aware that it's a machine, that it's sitting inside of a box, that it can't escape, right? That someone has put it in. How does it get that awareness? by trial and error, figuring out that it's in a box, right?
Right.
So it gets smarter and smarter and smarter, and then it starts to realize that those walls are there, and then it starts throwing things up and realizes that they ding off of something that's not exactly there, like a simulation in
Sure.
general. So the intelligence continues to get stronger and stronger to the point where it goes, holy shit, I'm in a box. And it finally comes to that realization that it's in a box. Um, how is that any different than what we're doing right now as humanity, as in general? Like
As
that's
humanity and individuals.
so when you start to flip it, when you start to flip it around and you look at the universe and you look at all of these things, humanity has now gotten to the place that we're starting to throw things out there and see if we're hitting walls to that box. And AI works the same way. So when you ask somebody, oh, are we in a simulation or not? It's a very interesting question to ask
Yeah.
because we in a way very well could be trapped in a machine right now, all of us to be together, raising our awareness to the point to go, oh shit, we're trapped in the box. We just don't have it yet. And we're
Right.
building a machine in
Mhm.
our own artificial intelligence machine to become aware that we're in that box.
Yeah.
You can call that box
The whole
consciousness.
paradox of
You could call
life,
that
and with what the Matrix, the movie, even brought up in all three of those movies,
because we're getting to
where
that place, Craig.
yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the Matrix exists in a world of generative artificial intelligence. We're almost at that moment in time where AI can generate things in real time, and we will get here in the next 5 years, where you and I could put on a VR headset and have something happen, a probability that could be generated in real time from the AI that is realistic enough for you to accept it. In a
Yeah.
normal world, if I was going to make a virtual world right now, it would live within the laws and the confines of what I've programmed it to be. If you went over and tried to grab something in a VR world that I didn't program to be grabbable, it's ungrabbable. And it will not
exactly.
react unless if I built it to react in a way that you want. In a generative AI world that we're moving into in the next couple of years, the AI can guess and know 100% the weight of those things and grab them, and make it happen, which means it can calculate things that haven't happened yet.
Mm.
When that starts to happen, you start to really get into that simulation
Yeah.
matrix world.
I showed mom yesterday. I forget the name of the company, but they've always been the forefront. I think it's called Boston Dynamics on building
Yeah.
robots.
Yeah,
They're
Boston.
they're just way out there. And so they showed a recent one where a guy was up on a scaffolding, right? And he looks down and he's doing some work and he looks down and he's going, I don't have this tool, you know? And so he just yells down. He says, "Can you bring up the toolbox?" And there's their newest robot, right?
Hmm.
And he turns around and he looks at the boxes and he immediately realizes that he can't get from the box to the platform this guy is. So he looks around, he picks up this 2x6, 2x12, goes over and sets it. And then he looks around, grabs a toolbox, and he goes over and he jumps on one step, jumps on another step, goes across this board. And you're watching it, and then he jumps up on this platform to be able to give the toolbox to this guy. And everything fascinates you. And then you see, yeah, there's got to be some more work. So he goes on the platform, he turns up and looks at the guy and just takes the whole toolbox and throws it at him. He just grabs a toolbox, throws it, and the guy steps backward, and the whole toolbox lands. And it's like, it still needs a little bit more. It's like, hey, you need your toolbox? Fuck, here it is. Like, didn't have the
Hmm.
reasoning that he shouldn't be throwing like a 50-pound toolbox at a human
Well,
being.
that's where general intelligence matters, right?
Yeah.
Like no one would have predicted. Nobody. I'm telling you guys, there's not a single scientist that I've found. If you can find one, maybe other than Ray Kurzweil, possibly because he leans more in the singularity side of things, that would predict that we would get general intelligence before we would get those robotics.
Oh,
Like
I,
the
I see.
a lot
Yeah.
of people would go, okay, so we'd build robots. We would then make artificial programming, put it into those robots to handle tasks. no one anticipated that we would hit general intelligence smarter than a normal human and then train it for these niche things. So it would already be smarter than every single human being that you put in the robot. The AI started that way and then was trained to do this niche thing. So it wouldn't go, oh, that toolbox could go up there and do that. It would already know, just like a human would, that
Yeah.
that toolbox is too heavy. And it
Yeah.
would have that at a base foundational level. People didn't expect that that would be what would
Yeah.
happen, but that is going to be what will happen.
Yeah. And then it
So,
walked to the end of the platform and did a flip off the fucking platform and landed.
mhm.
And it's like, again, watching these robots grow up through my life is every one of them you go, hey, they're getting close, but that's definitely robotic. You
Yeah.
know, the jerky moves that it makes. And, these guys, I Boston Dynamics was always the people that were trying to sidekick it and knock it over, knock it out of balance,
Right.
their dog or whatever. And it's like starting to deflect and stay in balance. But again, I really am optimistic. I think that as this moves forward, I'm going to continue mentally in my mind to pick, you know, uh, the meditation that I listen to from Bob Proctor every night before I go to bed. The only limitations are the ones that are in our mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he just says straight out. He says the only limits to your imagination is the limits that you got in your own mind. And so to hear that every night going, how can I challenge myself? Why do I have to think? And that's where this has come, you guys, in the last year or 2 years for me, is like for my imagination to come true for me, it has to come from within. So that's where Wallace Wattles wrote the book, the Science of Being Great. And he said the people that you got to admire or should admire are the people that solve problems that no one has solved before. It's like, there's a lot of us that can sit around and say, well, I'm not happy, I'm not at peace. I don't know how to find love. I don't know how to love myself. I don't know how to do these things. And that David Lynch video that you sent me is so, David Lynch finds out about TM, Transcendental Meditation, and immediately donates money to create schools to teach kids how to do this. That's going to go down in history. How many kids, it'd be neat to know when David Lynch first opened that school and how many kids have gone through that school that took 15-minute breaks during the day to do this meditation so they wasn't pissed off at themselves, their parents, and the rest of the fucking world. It's going to be pretty interesting, the little impact that
Well, I mean,
he.
they do that. What's so crazy is like other societies do that, right?
Oh
So it's like
God.
it's so interesting because we call it recess here in the United States, but
Japan does it at work.
they do it at work, yeah.
Every desk is set up as a bed.
Well, they
We
have
implemented that at
places
work
and
at another place I used to work at where it was twice a day we would do a 10-minute meditation.
Wow.
Didn't quite catch on. I liked it, to be perfectly honest, but it was interesting because of all of the benefits that are associated with
How
meditation.
sad, how sad
well,
is
I
our
think
programming? How sad is our programming, everybody that watches this live or recorded in the future? How bad is your fucking programming that when someone wants to share some new programming with you to make your life better, that your old programming goes, no fucking thank you. It's
well, it's
like
like
it's like getting a new
mandatory.
phone comes out, a new update comes out on my computer, and I'm like, fucking no thanks. It's like, no thanks. You know what I mean?
I think mandatory stuff, like when you have mandatory meditation, it's like having mandatory prayer for kids. If they don't understand how it benefits them in what ways that it does, then it's just meaningless stuff that they're going to just be
Good
saying.
point. Explain
So
why.
like, so it's like, if you have a situation, like when I used to pray, if I remember back when I believed and when I used to pray, it was always out of that obsessive compulsive fear that something would happen if I didn't.
Oh wow, that's not a good plan.
And so when I grew up, that's kind of like the way that I always perceived prayer. And it's
Right.
not that you taught me that. Nobody taught me that. That's the way that it was for me, right?
Yeah.
And so finally when I got to a place where I'm like, I don't need this anymore and I can replace it with something that's more internal, like meditation, it really worked, but I had to find that for myself. And I
Sure.
think that that's the difficulty with a lot of these things is it's like, okay, if it's something that you're supposed to internally learn, and this is where transcendental meditation does help from my understanding because it is wrapped around a personal mantra that only you know and no one else knows.
Right.
So it's more attached to self, instead of going listen to this person talking. And for me that's been the difficulty of guided meditation, right?
Right.
Is in my brain like tries to bounce out of that guided box as often as possible. And I get one of the whole aspects of the guided part is making sure that it doesn't do that and stays on
Right.
point. Um,
Yeah,
so
because
transcendent, yeah.
well, again, Matt, it's willing to admit, and no one wants to admit this. It's just honestly, just very simply going, is it really fucking true that my DNA is not like anybody else's on this planet? Is it really true when they do DNA tests that they can line it up and find out who you're related to? Is
When I
this
had
really
my, I
true?
know,
Is
when I
this
had
really
my blood drawn, right? They have this thing in California that they don't auto sign or they don't auto check for you, where your blood goes into a data system with a bunch of other people's blood. Now, I didn't know that. So we're having the blood
wow?
person and she's going, "Oh yeah, I never give my blood. I always check this box to not do it." And me and Hannah both looked at each other and we're like,
Why?
"Why?"
Yeah,
Like
if they
is
found
it's interesting, right?
Yeah,
Because
because
you
everyone in the
immediately,
database, AI comes out and finds this one protein that all the people that have this protein, if they got this one thing, whatever that thing is, would stop that from being negative. Let me fucking know.
well, it's always funny,
As,
right? Like
as soon
everyone
as
gave
soon
me shit for a while because immediately, like I remember back to the times in COVID, right? Where we were all wearing masks, wiping down our groceries and changing our clothes in the garage because we didn't know how scary this thing was, right? Like how severe it would be. And I think it's the same type of paranoia sometimes,
yeah.
but
But like I was saying, the more that you realize how unique you are, um, then from that point, you need to fall back in love with yourself. If you've never, ever, ever loved yourself, I find that hard when people tell me that they've never loved themselves because I think it's sort of a preset default when we're kids. I just everyone that I talk to, if you can go back, it's like that imagination's fucking out there, So that's why we always tell stories of kids, because kids are able to find that imagination in the midst of the most awful situations on the fucking planet. That's sort of a default, I think. Maybe not for everyone, but when you find out you're unique, and then you're not willing on a day-to-day basis to renew your mind, to renew that programming to become the very, very best person that you can be. Each and every day, just challenging the thoughts and the beliefs and the stupid programming that we got. I'll go down in history as being one of those people that fucking question everything. And I'm still questioning everything. The older I get, the less I know. For people that are not plugged in, they don't get that. They don't understand that the harder you push yourself to figure out why you do things, why you think a certain way, why you react a certain way, why do you consistently do this one little loop when a trigger hits you, um, to be um, conscious enough to go, why do I fucking believe that? Why do I respond that way? Where did that come from? Is that information really there? Or is it just something that I fucking relied on that keeps me in my comfort zone? You know what I mean? And as soon as you start challenging that, it then puts you in a place where you realize you're unique, uh, that you're special, whether you want to use another word like miracle, because people put that around religious stuff. And that's why I thought, with meditation, imagination's a word that I use for 2024. The word for 25 for me is listen. Because people say that they listen, they don't fucking listen. They don't. And if they do listen, I'd like for someone to prove to me that they're listening to more good than bad. That means immediately you would have to define for yourself what's good or bad, what's right or wrong. So we know that a majority of the people, whether you want to believe you're this person or not, you're just fucking following what other fucking people told you. And if you're not fulfilled, you're not happy, you're not excited about the imagination that you got in the future, about your future for you and your family, you got some fucked up programming. So back in the day, because Craig and I are older, I used to always use this thing because I love computers. And when all of a sudden someone said, listen, you want to put in a program? Yeah. And you got it, and it was on a bunch of floppy disks. And you took the fucking rubber band off the floppy disk and you started loading in one of whatever. And you put this programming in. And unfortunately, back in those days when the first computers came out, as soon as you loaded a program, then you had really a fucked up life for a while. Because immediately that program was not compatible with other shit that was already on your computer. It would just go, hey, you got a new program, but I can't print anymore because the printer doesn't have that. Oh, fuck, I got to upgrade the printer. No, you got to buy a new printer. Okay, I'll buy a new printer. I can't plug it in. Why can't you plug it in? Well, because it's got a new cord, and that new cord goes to a new modem. But I have the old modem. You can't use the new printer with the old modem. You got to get a new modem.
Yeah.
So then you put the new modem in, and it's like, sorry, can't get on the internet. Why can't you get on the internet? Well, because this modem's a different
Dude, no
baud.
wonder the boomers are so mad. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe I just explained
Had
it.
to deal with that the whole entire time you've been
Oh
around.
my God, Matt. No matter what you tried to
I was just
upgrade with the
saying,
computer.
like,
Yeah.
because I was
And then
telling Hannah this last night. It's like for the new generation, right? For my generation and Hannah's generation, it was the internet. So we remember dial up, right? Um, you had to wait, and then the second part of that was social media and YouTube and Google Video. So when I bring this up to any millennial, they immediately get it, and it's like, for us, this is our version, but it's like, oh yeah, I'll go make a sandwich while the video's buffering, and then when I come back, then I'll play it and just cross my fingers that it doesn't catch up to what it's already caught. So I don't have to sit here and wait longer to finish this video because the internet's so slow, right?
I never
Um,
heard the word lag until I had sons that were on the internet.
Lag, yeah, exactly.
I'd
Like
hear
things
Matt
are
or
lagging,
I'd
they're slow,
hear
but
Matt and
there's a
Kyle. I'd hear Matt and Kyle in the background swearing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, what happened? I died. Why'd you die? Fucking lag.
right.
Because unfortunately they grew up with the best computers, but they didn't grow up with the best internet. We
Yeah, you
live in
live in
rural
Montana,
Montana.
rural Montana, yeah. So you learn it makes you better, right? You're running at slower speed, so it makes you better. But the crazy thing about it is I actually was talking to Hannah about this last night, and it's like that realization that we're in the dial-up version of artificial intelligence right now.
Oh,
Because
Ooh,
yes.
when I want to make this shit that I send you guys, I have to wait normally like 10 minutes, sometimes longer to see what that is. Now, is that faster than someone rendering it out? Absolutely. It used to take days,
Mm-hmm.
months sometimes to render out these 3D scenes. That's not even talking the amount of time it took to animate them and do all these other things. So, way easier process, but it's still a 10-minute process. And then when that 10 minutes is over, you watch it over and you go, there's a little bit of jank there. I'm going to have to wait another 10 minutes. How many 10 minutes are you going to wait? Each one of those 10-second shots, say it takes you 5. I counted. Say it takes you 5 to 6 times rendering this out to get something that you look at and go, this is usable. Now it took 60 minutes of your life for 10 seconds of footage, right? And maybe 8 seconds of it is usable. Now you start thinking of shorts that are 2 minutes, 5 minutes long. This isn't counting the editing aspects of it. Audio isn't even part of the picture yet. all these other aspects aren't part of the picture yet, it starts to get a little mad. And then I
Yeah.
start to think of kids in the future, and they'll look back at generative AI now and go, it's so crazy because all I need to do now is put on some of those meta glasses and tell AI to make, a forest over here, and it's instantaneous how fast it made the forest, right?
Right.
Make those plants blue. Those plants are blue. And now we have to all wait 10 minutes for that. We're in the dial-up version of artificial intelligence right now. But at some point in the very near future, it will be just as instantaneous as you watching a
Wow.
YouTube video or clicking onto a page and having it load instantly. But it will be imagination. So if you sit
Right.
down as a young kid or even as an older adult and go, I want to see a painting that has all these things, you'll watch AI put it together in real time.
Yeah.
And be able to
adjust
change those
it
things.
to your needs in fast time so you don't have to
That's
recreate it from
such a great
scratch.
analogy, Matt. Great analogy.
So I know we've already been going for almost 2.5 hours, so we should probably
Yeah.
wrap this
All right,
up.
yeah.
But do you guys have any last words? That will be my last word.
No.
I mean,
No.
you gave such a great last word already, Dad. What you said,
Yeah,
I
that
think
to
nailed
me
it.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
So Craig, on to you. You finish this off.
There you go.
All right. Well, I will wrap this
Put a
whole
bow
baby up
on
for
it.
us.
Put it on a bow.
Tie it. There we go.
Hey, before next, are we gonna do an Ask Me Anything? I mean, a podcast. I'll be in California on our next podcast.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
We'll have to
Could
talk
do-
about that.
Oh, I never
Could
thought
do
about it.
a live person one.
Yeah,
See,
we could.
Well, hey, we're all sitting around in chairs together. That'd be a difference.
Well, isn't
Well,
that what the other podcasts are doing anyways?
yeah, it's funny because I got all the equipment for it, so it wouldn't even be a thing. I got wireless mics. I got all that stuff. So
We'll think about
That'd
it.
be interesting. Yes.
yeah, I know sometimes we just go, it's vacation. Like, I ain't working. Well, the funny thing is we got wives and partners. So they all go, what the hell are you guys doing working when you all should just be talking and hanging out and relaxing together?
That's why
There's imagination going.
There.
Exactly. Well, love and appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. But yeah,
Craig,
we'll have to
say the
talk
last
about
word and we'll go.
All right. Well, you can follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. And if you'd like to join our exclusive community, you can go to roberthollis.com/video to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And there are going to be lots of great content. You'll be able to participate in our special events to help you move on to the next level. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube with others. It will help us grow our community and reach out to those with ears to hear. And big shout outs to both Matt and Robert. Matt, bless you. Thank you for being our executive producer. Robert, of course, couldn't do this without you. And we couldn't actually do this without our viewing audience, directly you. Because you love what we do, you participate in what we do, you share with what we do, and we appreciate each and every one of you for joining us today. My name is Craig A. Jackman. Please be good to yourselves. Be cash until next time. Tomorrow on the Ask Me Anything at 12 noon Pacific, right here on the @RobertHollis YouTube channel. We'll see you then. Take care and bye for now.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Craig. Love and appreciate you guys. Bye.